Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video from blues legend B.B. King, and through his indelible style that he had, his incredible voice, his incredible guitar playing, we looked at the life and how he changed music forever. So I trust you found that one encouraging. We're going on to a guy today that was born in 1948 in Plaisance in Guyana. Now, Guyana is at the top of South America, one of the smaller countries up there, and it became independent from the British Empire in 1966. So we're talking pristine beaches, beautiful water, beautiful sunsets, and a beautiful village lifestyle. This is very much what Guyana actually is. And I don't know of any other artists I can think of who's actually come from Guyana that I know of. Well, not yet anyway. The guy we're talking about is Eddy Grant. Now, Eddy was instrumental in the establishment of the ring bang music genre. You'll be thinking, what on earth is that? Well, imagine when a baby's crying and it gets picked up and it gets nursed by the mum or the dad and it just gets quiet and still. This is very much the thing about ring bang. It's also the thing that makes the soul quiet. Interesting, that one, isn't it? Makes the soul quiet. This is a very inner essence of who we are. Something just resonates with that. We go, oh, I can just rest and be myself here. I think this is what we want as human beings, don't we? We want to be able to just rest and to be able to be ourselves. This is what ring bang kind of seeps into that very, very centre of who we go, and kind of just breathe a big sigh of relief. So good on you, Eddy Grant, for bringing that into the world. He's also got many other influences too: pop, British rock, soul, funk, reggae, electronic music, and very much his massive hit is electronic music. A couple of his hits actually. African polyrhythms, so very rhythmical. Of course, this guy, he's got a pretty amazing voice to start with. He can play guitar. He also just has this way about him. He's got this cruisy bluesy style, but he's also quite intentional about what he does, because he's not scared to actually talk about the stuff that needs to be talked about. In fact, we'll get on to one of his big songs which talks about, and what that talks about in a minute. His career started with a band called The Equals in 1965. So this guy's been doing this thing for a fair while. So if you think about 1948 to 1965, well, it was like 18. And that band was pretty successful. They had a massive hit, Baby Come Back. That actually went to #1. And between 1967 and 1971, there were 6 studio albums. So that's pretty big output right there. Of course, the Equals were rocked when Eddy had a heart attack and a collapsed lung in 1971. It nearly killed him, and because of that, he couldn't continue with the band. Equals, by the way, still had a bit of a career after Eddy left them, which is pretty good. But you know, sometimes your health has to take over. And how often in the music industry do people not take notice of their health, and they end up suffering for it? Well, Eddy Grant had to put a stop to that. So what did he do then? Well, then he decided, well, actually, I'm going to go into a record studio production, and he started Couch House Studios in around that time. But since that time, he's had quite a prolific career. This guy, between 1975 and 2017. 15 studio albums, 1 live album, 13 compilation albums, and 19 singles. A couple of significant things for Eddy. First of all, he got to sing at Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday, and that was in 2008. Now, Eddy says that he is a protest writer. And when you think about protest and a protest that went for a very, very long time, Nelson Mandela in jail being very much the thing for that. And so to be asked to sing at, I suppose, his idol's 90th birthday would be a pretty massive deal for him. He's also received a Lifetime Achievement Award from his native Guyana as well. Now, I've probably first met Eddy Grant through the song Electric Avenue. It came off the Killer on the Rampage album from 1982. Now, Eddie has spent some time in London, and what this song's actually about, it's interesting. What we should got to find out what the song's about, because when you look at the clips, it doesn't make a lot of sense what it's about. But when you read up behind the scenes, it does. Electric Avenue was a massive song for Eddy Grant when it came out. And what's the song about? As I said, he spent some time in London, and the story goes that it was around 1982 in the London district of Brixton. Interesting, there was a street in there that was the first market street to be lit by electricity. So that's where Electric Avenue comes from. And it was also a massive place for people from the Caribbean to come and to do life and to start life anew and all the rest of it. Well, and normally what happens in situations like that is groups become marginalised and they don't have the voice, and there's unemployment and poverty and all the rest of it that comes along with that. And why should we be like this when we're actually in a country that's not like that? Because we could see those with lots of money and those with not quite so much. This creates a beautiful melting pot, particularly if you've got a lot of people together, all feeling the same way, that things are going to start to happen. And that certainly did what happened in 1982 with the Brixton riots. It wasn't a terribly good chapter in London's history. And it's a classic case where you're really not listening to us here. We're trying to stay up, but you're just not listening. So we need to go further. And I suppose Electric Avenue was written in a little bit of anger, actually, according to Eddy Grant. When you wrote this song, he's thinking, well, violence on the streets, and when we get to Electric Avenue, we're going to take it higher, or whatever take it higher actually means. I think maybe take it higher as in we need to make our voice a bit louder here. And so 1982, very much a response to the Brixton riots, and it wasn't long after that Eddie actually left the UK. Human beings, aren't we an interesting bunch? If imagine you're on the side of someone that's marginalised and not being able to talk. Imagine you're in poverty. In fact, your parents are in poverty, your grandparents are in poverty, and no one's had a job for like forever. And you look around and you look at the opulence and extravagance around you, it's going to just do you in after some time. You're thinking, well, where's my opportunity? I can work hard. I'm actually a human being. I can do all the stuff that I do. Why is it that there are no opportunities coming my way? It's a really, really good question that, we all wonder that. Where are our opportunities? It's not going to lead us to go to riot, but you know what? We're talking about a level of desperation here that becomes so compelling that something needs to be done about it. We do have a right, according to the United Nations, we have a right to gather and to protest. That's all good. I think what happens is that sometimes the protests turn violent, and that's not so good. But you know what? What is equally violent, I suppose, for lack of a better word, is people not listening and not wanting to engage. And so, and because that often is the status quo in a particular country, well, it's very, very difficult to get your point across. And so I think riots wouldn't happen if people sat down and talked to each other a lot earlier on. Now, all it needs to be is like, hey, we just want opportunities that you guys have got. And instead of just thinking, well, when they're not interested, actually standing, okay, well, what can we do to bring about change? Because as human beings, we all deserve opportunity and a chance for a better life. And let's face it, the Caribbean, despite its beauty and beautiful, it can also be a bit of a trick in some of the countries. I think about Haiti right now, and my thoughts certainly are with what's going over there. And a bit of a shout out to Nelson, and I hope you're doing well, Nelson, in your part of that country. So we've got to change how we do things here. we've got to change, instead of just ignoring what people are trying to say, actually listening and saying, well, actually, it'll just go away. Well, as it was in the case of the Brixton riots, it didn't go away. So what can we do? We might not be in the government who can make the big decisions, but what can we do to enable people to be able to have a voice? Putting our own opinions on hold for the sake of the conversation, so the conversation takes over from just two people, is probably a good place to start. So let's be not so fixed on our opinions and ideas that we can't talk with other people. I think this is the challenge of Electric Avenue today. There's something else about Electric Avenue too, just thinking about it, and that is there's a bit of an ideal here too. Electric Avenue is a pretty compelling image. I think of the movie Cars. I don't know if you know that Pixar movie with Lightning McQueen, you know, the little town called Radiator Springs. There's that particular scene where the road has been fixed and everyone's absolutely beside themselves with absolute glee. There's a sense of community and togetherness, and it gets lit up a bit. It's in a sense an Electric Avenue opportunity right there. And I think Electric Avenue is also a little bit of an ideal about how we can actually get to be together where everybody is experiencing the electricity of opportunity. So good on you, Eddie, for providing such rich lyrics to be able to talk about today. Or as I've already said, he's got an incredible voice, this guy. He's been doing this thing for a long time. His career started right back at the age of 18. And so he's had a pretty amazing, lengthy career, this guy. Now, as I said before, so we do have Electric Avenue. Let's get on to the clips below. Electric Avenue, we've got the official clip and a live version of that one. It's really good to get a live version of this one. A lot of these live versions seem to be coming from a similar concert, it would seem. It's good to see some live footage of Eddy Grant on YouTube, which is always good. So we've got Electric Avenue. We'll go back to the very start, and the Equals in 1966, Baby Come Back. This song went to #1 in the UK, and here we can see Eddy Grant with his mates from the Equals. We then got another big song of his, I Don't Wanna Dance. This also came from Killer of the Rampage, and this song went to #1 in the UK, and is a pretty big song for Eddy Grant. When you go to one of his concerts, that's the song, one of the songs you want to hear. We then got Romancing the Stone. Now this was written for the movie of the same name in the early 1980s. We had Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. And it didn't feature that much in the movie, just a little bit. But I do remember this song coming out and thinking, wow, that's a pretty amazing song, that one. That also came from an album of Eddy's in 1984 as well, Going for Broke. So we have the official clip of that one, which is very much around the movie itself, and then we've also got a live version of that one as well. So the links to those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos are in the description below. Thank you, Eddy Grant, for what you brought to this world. It was great to hear that your last album was called Place Dance Where You Were Born, so you really meant giving a nod to your heritage, which just makes you such a beautiful human being in this world of music. And so, yeah, the links to all those songs are in the description below, and I've also included my last video from B.B. King, so if you want to recap on him, feel free, because he came from the southern United States, so he kind of got the whole marginalised thing as well. Well, if you've come back for another one, or if this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, thank you for everybody for hanging around to the end as always. It's great to be enjoying the engagement we'll be getting of late, and I got to 25 subscribers, so how exciting is that? Thank you very much for that. It's a bit of a milestone for me, I must admit. So that's it for today. Next time we're going to go on to early 1980s and the Culture Club. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.